Sometime of day. Good morning. Welcome to the Celtic Way Morning Briefing Live. It's Tuesday, October the 18th. We never stop. Celtic never stops. I'm Tony Haggerty, Haggerty10 Twitter handle, which you all know by now, off by heart, I hope. And I'm joined today by Aidan Macdonald at Aidan Macdonald, his Twitter handle, which you're getting to know. Indeed. How are you, Aidan? You well?
I'm good, Tony. How are you?
I'm very well, very well. Just draw your attention to our ticker tape, which we always have running along the bottom of your screen. Still the new subscriber offer, £6 for 6 months of full access to everything on the website and the pods as well. Just hit that subscriber button, guys. www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. Now, I believe somebody last night would have won the Real Madrid trip, Aidan, so hopefully they've been informed, or they'll be informed in the fullness of time, and they can let out mad screams and go mental and let us know in the comment section. Guys, today, you probably saw the news yesterday that Celtic icon, legend, call him what you will, Japanese playmaker Shunsuke Nakamura has decided to retire at 44 years of age. Now, I'm going to post this up. This is a link to the first piece I ever penned for the Celtic Way. Put it on a couple of social media channels yesterday. If you'd like to go onto the web our page, you will see that, and it's actually talking about what happened to Nakamura, who continued his playing career and well into his 40s when he left Celtic. And I would urge you to read that piece. It's quite special to me because it was the first piece that I said as I penned for the Celtic Way, but it was that was myself starting to write about Celtic on a daily basis as a career. So yeah, we've all come a long way since then, Aidan. The Celtic Way, myself, yourself, Sean Martin, and after a year or so, we're still delighted to be here, and we're still delighted to be talking about Celtic to everybody who joins us on the daily podcast and who subscribes to the web page. Now, how your thoughts, Aidan? You're a bit younger growing up, Shunsuke Nakamura. You remember him? You remember bits of him? Because most of the bits were pretty good.
Yeah, I remember a lot about Nakamura. I think it's probably fair to say that he is one of my favourite ever Celtic players, really, of all time. Because as you're saying, I was quite young, when I was first starting to go and watch games, etc. That was when Nakamura was at his pomp, kind of 2006, 2007 season, then 2007, 2008. During those 2 years in particular, some of the goals he scored were unbelievable. I know we'll probably go on to talk about individual moments, Tony, from Nakamura, but yeah, I remember Nakamura very fondly. He was some player.
Guys, get your comments coming in. Got them somewhere. Morning, boy, says Dara Donnelly. Morning, Dara, how are you? Patrick McGoughan, he loved a good free kick. He most certainly did indeed. Brian Roberts, magical player. And Robert Davey says, hello from Dublin. Hello, Robert, how are you? Are you well? And Patrick McGoughan's back and says, Kilmarnock must have hated Naka because he scored at least 6 free kicks against him. There's that wonderful footage. I don't know if you remember when he scored the free kick at Rugby Park to win the title. And as he places the ball down, can't remember who it was, but he winked at someone as if it's as good as a goal. And I think that's the way the Celtic supporters felt about Nakamura when he placed the ball for a free kick, Aidan, 25 yards, 30 yards from goal. It was as good as a penalty. He was utterly deadly, wasn't he?
Oh, he was lethal from set pieces, and it's hard to think to anybody who maybe someone that isn't a Celtic fan or is even a bit younger than me, so they don't really remember watching Nakamura. It's quite difficult to comprehend the fact that somebody setting up a free kick 25 to 35 yards out was seen as almost a goal, or you're almost disappointed he didn't score. Yeah. And it is kind of hard to get across what that feeling was like every time he stepped up. And obviously, as the commenter said there, he loved a goal against Kilmarnock in particular. Yeah. But I forgot about the thing, Tony, when the game down at Rugby Park, when he winked. That was a good call back there. That was
because I remember I was in the office watching it, and I remember saying to my boss at the time, "Did you see that? He's just flagged that ball down, winked as if it's as good as a goal. Just watch me do it." And Scott Macdonald said he was the best player he'd ever played alongside, and he said he practiced free kicks till it became perfection. David Beckham did the same, and he said it could be -2, and Nakamura would be like, one more, just let me hit one more. And when he places that ball, he does it in his sleep. He did something that came natural to him. And Scott McDonald said it was no surprise because the technique, he just perfected it, and he was one of those that stayed behind, did extra, took 100 balls, did the free kick thing. And you could see that. I mean, you could clearly see that. And Marquis Boykin and Nakamura was exceptional. The Cullen goal v Rangers was my standout. Yeah, that goal in particular, Aidan. Now, there's lots of swerving goals that you've seen from Celtic players and others from watching various world-class players, but that goal in particular now, that defied the laws of gravity and physics. It was as if someone was in the stand controlling where that ball was going. What a touch. What a shot. I mean, Alan McGregor's going one way, and then he just realises this is going nowhere near the way I'm going in that split second, and then the ball just takes that movement, and it's a terrific strike.
Yeah, to this day, I'm still trying to work out how he managed it, to be honest. And it's a goal, I'm sure it'll be the same, Tony, that I've watched hundreds of times. It's just so satisfying, and it's just as good now when I watch it back as it was when I remember watching the game at the time. The way the technique there is unbelievable, given how far out it is as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I always remember that at the time, kind of a few people I was sitting with and that, my dad and a few of his friends, was maybe thinking, Alan McGregor's, made a mess of that with his position there, but it was nothing to do with that at all. It was just brilliant technique.
Yeah.
And the way he was able to get the ball to curl in there was amazing. And it's probably one of the all-time kind of great Celtic v Rangers goals, I would imagine.
Oh, certainly up there in a lot of people's eyes, isn't it? Raymond Harden comes in and says he was in line when he scored the winner at Killie to win the league. T1 comes in. Nakamura's Man United free kick was a standout at Parkhead. I think everybody who was there will remember that moment for a long time, forever, basically. Kieran 5491. Naka's left foot is the most magical body part to enter Celtic parts and Celtic's dreadlocks. Indeed. One way of looking at it. There you go. And Tam Mack, I remember this as well, watched a video of Naka putting a ball through a travelling bus open windows. He certainly did. Particularly a slice over the outside of the left boot. It was former Tottenham in England player Steve Perryman that said Nakamura could open a tin of beans with his left foot. Funnily enough, Keen 549 Naka's free kick against Man United Celtic Park. Yeah, lots of people having love for the free kick against Manchester United and the goal against Rangers. But he won the goal of the season, 2006-2007, for a chip against Dundee United, which was the one in a 2-each game, actually. I think Celtic came from 2-0 down. That was a game that Gordon Strachan labelled him a genius. And he was also nominated for the Ballon d'Or that year as well. I mean, that's quite an achievement, Aidan, when you think that he's plying his trade in Scotland.
Yeah, that is a phenomenal thing, and something that gets quite underlooked.
Yeah.
The fact that a player that was involved with Celtic was getting nominated for the Ballon d'Or, regardless if it was just on a short list, etc., is something you would not imagine in sort of modern times. And that's how good Nakamura was, and he was doing it at the highest level. It wasn't just in Scotland, as commenters have mentioned, goals in Europe, being sometimes the best player on the pitch in Champions League games when he was surrounded by, other players and other teams that were worth millions and millions of pounds. He was just absolutely phenomenal. And yeah, the free kick against Manchester United, just since the comment I mentioned it, is...
Well, there was 2 free kicks against Manchester United. I remember arguing with a Manchester United, not arguing, but I kind of put his gas out of peep because I said, okay, maybe the free kick at Old Trafford, I says, maybe that was lucky. I says, but twice was showboating. And he didn't take to that particularly kindly. I said, he did it at your place and he did it at our place. I said, so you cannot say that he wasn't a highly talented and gifted player. So he was kind of like, all right then, I'll concede that. But as I say, he scored a wonderful free kick at Old Trafford when Celtic lost 3-2. I think there was a dubious penalty that they lost to after a great performance at Old Trafford that night. But I mean, Nakamura, I think when you think of Nakamura, you can't help but the Rolodex in your mind, when you think of him, he's producing a special moment, isn't he? You know, there was a hat trick at Tannadice. I think he scored
hat trick. He got
a
a
hat trick at
Tannadice.
Yeah, Tannadice. You know, but everything he seemed to do, and your mind turned to gold because there's so many uplifting moments and free kicks to look back on. There was one in the injury time against St Mirren as well. I think it was a contentious free kick at St Mirren Park, and he he did what he did naturally. Celtic were under pressure to get a result, and he banged it into the net. You know, so it's just that there's so many of them, which is why he's lauded and loved by the Celtic supporters, isn't it?
Yeah, he is. Every time, like you're saying, when you think about Nakamura, you do just think back to all these sort of iconic moments. There's not really anybody's got a bad word to say about him, to be honest, and there's not many players as well. I think that you would all you can really think about is positives. Genuinely, yeah. Obviously players like Henrik Larsson, etc. You know, it's all positives, but in kind of maybe slightly more modern times, Nakamura's that player, and you can almost in your head you're thinking every game he did something amazing. Now I know that will not be true, but that's what you think in your head, which is probably a sign of how special a player he was.
Yeah, Marky Boyce corrects me. He says Love Street then, Tony. Yeah, it was Love Street, I think. Yeah. And Edward says most of the squad back then spoke Japanese, thought that was common knowledge. Because I think Edward Wyervos says, did Naka have a translator or did he go with the flow? I'll answer that because he had a translator and he was called Maka. So it was Naka and Maka, and he had a camera crew that followed him around everywhere. And yeah, it was quite something. And there was lots of Japanese journalists who would take their place week by week in the Celtic press box, and they just covered everything. I've never seen or witnessed anything like it in my life. Where everything that he did was filmed, or certainly football related. And he had to speak to everybody, and he was a trailblazer and an ambassador, and for the Japanese league and Japanese players and Asian players coming into Europe, the likes of Nakamura and Hidetoshi Nakata, guys like that. He did blaze a trail, and he was. I think the Celtic supporters will always remember him fondly. Aidan, I think his legacy speaks for itself, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. He's got such an amazing legacy to do with Celtic, and you know his career in general, Japanese international. As you were saying, he was kind of one of the trailblazers really for Japanese players breaking into play in Europe. Obviously, he came from Serie A. And he went to Espanyol. It may not really worked out, but still the fact he was moving to a La Liga club probably would show the level he was at. And yeah, he's just what a player, don't he? What a player.
I mean, he I believe, I wrote in that piece that I put in the comments that he arrived an unknown. He left a bit of a demigod, didn't he?
That is a perfect way to describe him. Exactly like that. That's what it was like.
And I think for his ability as well, and he loved it. He loved Celtic, and he loved scoring for Celtic. And a very humble guy as well, and just loved playing for the club, and certainly made an impact and carved a wee indelible mark in lots of Celtic supporters' hearts and minds, and he'll be forever remembered. Raven Hanman says, "Happy retirement, Naka." Yeah, and there's a history of Japanese players going on forever, or playing into their late 40s. I think some of them even played in their 50s. I always felt that Naka could probably do that, but he's decided it's time to call it a day. But as you say, so many iconic and wonderful moments, and we applaud him for those. We say thank you, and like everybody and most Celtic supporters, we wish him a happy retirement. Somebody was saying get him back as a coach, because I think he's embarking on his coaching baddies, and yeah, you never know what the future holds, eh?
Yeah, I'd be more than happy for Nakamura to come back to be a coach, maybe even a set piece coach or something like that. That would be great.
Marky Boy said he mixed well with other players in the dressing room. Yep, to all intents and purposes, he did. He got stuck in, and he tried. I mean, I think his English wasn't great, but he was helped through Maka. But I think he learnt a few swear words as well, and as you do, the likes of Bruni and Scott McDonald, McManus and Caldwell around, I'm sure he would have learnt the basics. But yeah, I think that he was well liked in the Celtic dressing room. Not only did the players love him for his ability, but I think in his own way he was a character, and he got the message across. And I think Gordon Strachan was able to get his message across to Naka via Maka and the players as well. And I think he mixed well with the guys. He was pretty humorous, I believe, as well. So I mean, it's all nice. You know, I mean, his teammates speak unbelievably highly of him, and I think that should please a lot of Celtic supporters. And Nakamura, like you always carries himself with pride and honour. Hope he has a long and happy retirement. Yep. And Tam Atkins in longevity due to the great diet, probably. Yeah, I mean that. I don't disagree with any of those sentiments, but yeah, we wish him all the best and happy retirement, Naka. Thanks for all the memories and great moments. You know, we've just sat here for 15 minutes, Aidan, picking a few of them out, and the commenters have come in and given us their own memories of them. So there you go, marvellous. Now, Aidan, something else that's hit social media, and you noticed it yesterday, or it was kind of Sunday night, Monday, and you wanted to talk about it. The new Celtic DVD, We Never Stop. Some people have been posting clips of that, but there's one clip in particular, and it's Ange talking to the players at Tannadice after they've wrapped up the title. He tells them how proud of them they are, and it's been a wonderful year. And that wonderful glance back when I think Josip Juranovic dares to suggest that they get the next day off. And you would think they would have the next day off, but they don't, because he tells them they'll get enough time off when the season ends. So Celtic won the title at Tannadice, and the guys were reporting back for training the next morning. Definition of we never stop, eh?
Yeah, it shows the kind of professionalism and the high standards that Ange Postecoglou's got, and that sort of mentality is one of the reasons Celtic managed to pull off that kind of double winning season last year. And yeah, everything about that video was amazing. That sort of getting that sort of insight. You know, we've heard about Ange's speeches and that in the past. Remember when he was first coming over, Ryan McGarvey, who used to play for Hearts, under Australia, he was very kind of open. I mean, him getting interviewed across various platforms, talking about how he would want to run through a big wall for Ange, or he was really good at, getting you up for it, making sure he didn't fear anyone. So
I think he posted that up, didn't he, Ryan McGowan, that speech?
I think he did, yeah, from the Confederations Cup or something. I think
it was. And think about your first coaches, your mum and dad, and all that kind of stuff. And I was watching that and I thought, my goodness. Then I think Ryan McGowan said they were tackling the waiters in the hotel and the restaurant that they were in as soon as he stopped speaking. And I thought, what a great way to put it, because you just got them so up for it.
Yeah, and you can see how much respect, etc., the players have got for them. All you can really hear in the background when he's speaking is the translator for the Japanese players. So everybody's so focused on what he's doing, and you can just see the love that the players have for Ange and that Ange has for the players. And yeah, it was a really nice wee insight to be able to see that. It would obviously, I think it was when the season ticket campaign was getting launched earlier this year, we've seen a wee behind the scenes from the League Cup final, I think it was.
Yeah.
And it was kind of similar. Ange giving a speech, obviously the difference being I think that was before the game, if I remember rightly. So yeah, we kind of had a wee bit of an insight, but that was more in depth and was a wee bit longer. So it was really good to see that.
Excuse me, it's a wonderful snapshot, isn't it? And into how his mind works and how he felt at that moment, how the players felt. And as you say, I think these insights are invaluable because it lets you in, doesn't it? It gives you that kind of fly in the wall, documented type, access, and everybody loves it. Just because you're always kind of thinking, I wonder what he's saying. You always say, I wonder what's said in the huddle, that kind of thing. So when you get these wee kind of snippets, it's brilliant. And Raymond Harden says, brilliant how the players paid respect to Ange during the speech, told JJ Ash for the day off. Yeah, I mean, that was a brilliant, the actual look on his face is if, how dare you, because he's got that work ethic, Aidan, that you were talking about. He was just like, wait a minute, because during the speech he said to him, you're not getting the day off, didn't he? I'm sure he said those words.
I think he said it was either something like that or something along the lines of, you'll get plenty of time away from me when the season ends. So yeah, that was a brilliant wee cut to be able to see. And it just, not to repeat myself too much, but it does just show the mentality of Ange and the squad in general. That was the case, because it would have been probably quite easy to just take the foot off the gas there, then have a bit of a party during the Motherwell game at the end of the season, which obviously the team and the fans did have anyway. But they still went out there and put in probably one of the best performances of the whole season on top of that. So to be able to get that was excellent.
they were clinical and lethal, and that day in particular, my father said he's not enjoyed a day at Celtic Park like that in a long, long time. The 6-0 game against Motherwell. Yeah, Ange docked JJ a week's wages for that. And Brian Roberts came in and says, brilliant speech, then a sardonic smile. David Ferguson, I don't think Yoshi Rani should be asking for a day off again. No, I don't think I would. The Ange stare, I don't think anybody wants it. So far, I've avoided it with my questions of him. I've been called, no, in fact, I got it once at Easter Road when I questioned that Celtic were flat during the 0-0 game. I got a bit of a bite back, but I gave as good as I got, so he was happy with that. But he had a wee kind of pop when he asked me where I watched it, and I said in the press box, and he kind of said it figures. Then I had to fight my corner. But I stood by what I thought. Thought Celtic were flat that day. It was near the end of the season. They drew 0-0 at Easter Road, and they were off colour. But I got the mate treatment. But he's been fine ever since. I thought, okay, you lives and learns, don't you? You try and not annoy him. But I thought it was a valid question. He was a bit annoyed because they dropped 2 points, so I could understand that. But there you have it. But in the future meetings I've had with him, I've avoided the Ange stare, let's put it that way, and he's answered my questions fully. So I'm happy with that. Lesson learned.
Never do that again, Tony.
No, I'll never do that. To be fair, you got to have the courage of your convictions to ask a question which you know might annoy him, but it was one of those. I thought I'll take my chance. But yeah, he kind of left me in no uncertain terms. You know, I got the Josip Juranovic stare. Once you get the stare, you know, what follows ain't going to be pleasant. And a lot of the fellow journalists were kind of laughing and thinking, "Oh, it's your turn this week." So, but no, you take it. It's an education for me as well. Moving on too, and you kind of see how his mind works and how it operates. But no, I agree with you, Aidan. A couple other clips as well that were posted up with Tom Rodgick and Near Beaton saying their farewell speeches, stuff like that. So I always think that these things give the supporters a much needed, fascinating insight into it. I think these things fascinate supporters and journalists alike, don't they?
Yeah, they're really interesting. Obviously, in recent times, there's been the success of the All or Nothing series. It's on Amazon, the documentary. So I don't know if it's maybe Celtic trying to tap into that a wee bit with their own thing, because I think a lot of supporters have said in the past, if there was some sort of coverage like that across the whole season, they'd be more than willing to, watch it, pay money for it, etc. But yeah, it's interesting to see that behind the scenes. And just to touch on Roderick and Wheaton, because you mentioned it there, that was quite emotional, and it showed you when they were speaking in the dressing room. I think it was either before or after the last game. Would that be right, Tony? I think it was.
Yeah.
And it was clear to see how important they were to the squad, and how they were both a wee bit choked up by that. So that was great content as well, Tony. It was both all the wee behind the scenes clips that have came out have all been really good. So
yeah. Andrew Galea says, have you asked Ange for an interview? I think he's very selective about who he speaks to in terms of granting them a separate audience. I know he speaks a lot to journalists back home that he's formed a bond and a relationship with, and he's also done Open Goal, hasn't he? And Darryl Curry's Curry Club. But I don't think many of the kind of newspaper journalists or online media journalists would be granted a kind of separate audience with them, because I think they feel that that's unfair and they prefer to do the kind of all-ins. But that's not to say that in future that Ange might not, or Anthony might not meet Ange. I would love that to happen. It'd be great. I'd like to sit him down and pick his brains. I would just annoy him, I guess. I would get the stare that time probably, but I think we'd also have a good laugh as well, because I'd like to tap into his sense of humour, because I know he's got a brilliant sense of humour, so I think that would be great just to sit down with him just for any length of time. And I always enjoy the pressers and the few minutes that we get with him before, during, after games. They're always a joy, because you do learn something, and he has a really different way of thinking about football and yeah, you take it on board. The open goal interviews are brilliant. Ange really relaxes you. That's and David Ferguson says, Ange would be grateful for a decent question from you, Tony, instead of other nonsense. Well, that's I'd need to go and study if that was the case, and I got granted an audience with Ange. I think that's my new goal, Aidan, isn't it? Try that, get granted an audience with him, see what happens. But yeah, it'd be great to sit down with him. I think it'd be fascinating. I think he could give you some great insight, and it would be good to be part of that and to get him to open up and answer. I'm fascinated with the Ferenc Puskas and his father stuff. I'm really taken by that because it was my father that introduced me to football, and everybody's got heroes and stuff. And I've asked him a couple of times about that, and he's given me some great answers. And then I also asked him one day what makes an Ange footballer, and I got a wonderful story about how he went to Clairefontaine and studied them for ages, French system, how they spot players, and he told me that he nipped the nut of some French coach for ages and ages and ages, and he asked him questions constantly, and he was like, but you've got like 50 players here, how do you whittle it down to a final 12? Because to me they're all world-class players, or they're all brilliant players. And he turned to Ange and he said, when you know, you know. And he was just like, right, okay. And Ange himself, he's recounted that story, recounted it to me that time, and he also said that when his wife goes shopping, she knows what to get. That's the way he feels about signing footballers. When he goes shopping in the transfer market, he knows what he wants. So I mean, that was a kind of cracking insight into his mindset and how he thinks, Aidan. And he's come away with plenty of stuff like that in the year and a half that he's been here.
Yeah, anytime he's doing a presser or an interview, you're always kind of captivated. And I know, I'd imagine it's probably the same, Tony, when you're actually involved in the press conference with him as well. But just every time he speaks, you're always kind of sitting up and listening. Particularly Celtic supporters were doing that. And yeah, he is somebody I think that would be an absolute dream to interview, as long as you did your research.
Didn't waste his time.
But as long as you did your homework, I think it would be definitely be something special to get a chance to speak to Ange. Absolutely.
Without a doubt. And I always think that when you come away from an interview with Ange or a press conference with Ange and you've learned something, then it's always been worthwhile. And I've stressed on this a lot for a long time since he came in. One of the prerequisites about Ange is listen to him. He signposts a lot of what he says and he's telling you. Yet some people, I don't know, it's if you listen to what he's actually saying, then there would be no need to sort of ask him same things on a recyclable basis. He answers the question. He'll not shy away from anything, but you must listen to the answer, because sometimes he gives you, minute detail, and it's all the devil's in the detail, isn't it? So there you go. Edward Wire Voz comes in and says Axel, Ange was burned by Axel and Tony before he arrived. No, he wasn't burned. I questioned, I think like most people, because I was blissfully unaware and ignorant of who he was, and I asked, is this the right man to take charge of the club? I didn't. I'll defend myself on that, Edward, all day long. And then when he came in and he won 3 out of 7, I was questioning the fact that record wasn't good enough. And everything I have seen since then has led me to say, yeah, maybe got it wrong. And not so much wrong. I was just, a lot of Celtic supporters were sceptical of the appointment, let's put it that way. I was one of them. I was invested heavily in Eddie Howe. Thought Eddie Howe would have done a great job. Ange came in, kind of parachuted in from nowhere. But he's been a wonderful appointment for Celtic. I don't think any Celtic supporter would say that. And, to use the word burned by him, I was critical. I was vocal about it. Yeah, I'm not denying that. But I also said that I would give him a chance because he was a manager of Celtic Football Club, and I did give him a chance. So, and I'm delighted that he's here.
Yeah, he's been phenomenal from the start. And I think as well, just when you mentioned that wee spell, when you were saying how at the start, 3 wins out of 6 or 7 or whatever it was,
yeah,
and himself spoken about that at the time,
Correct.
So he spoke about it at the time and said it wasn't good enough. He knew we needed Celtic needed instant success. So I don't think you were the only one, Tony, that was a wee bit sceptical. But of course, like a lot of people, as soon as Ange started to get going in the run up, really some positive performances in the Europa League last season, even though maybe the results didn't always go Celtic's way, and then winning the League Cup, pretty much anybody that was a Celtic supporter anyway that maybe had reservations at the start was.
Yeah, I mean, I think most Celtic supporters had reservations, especially after the season that had come off the back of it, and Ange came in. But everybody's a convert now. We were all invested in how Tony got. I think a lot of Celtic supporters were. Andrew says, I saw that Tony nobody liked losing, but we're all on board now. Yep, indeed. And my point when Ange was winning 3 out of his first 7 games was he had to win football matches. I didn't care how he did it. He just needed to win because that's what Celtic needed at the time. And they went on a year unbeaten run. So he did win football matches. And that's all I asked him to do. But he also did it in a style and a philosophy and a style that pleased me greatly. And as a journalist, you have the right to ask questions of him. Of course, Brown Warrior, I've got nothing to reproach myself for in terms of Ange coming in. Was I critical? Yeah. Was I vocal? I was critical of the processes that led to Eddie Howe not coming. I was more critical of that rather than Andy's appointment. Andy's appointment sort of was another layer upon incompetency that I was viewing at the time from the Celtic board and those that were in charge. But since Andy's come in, it's been terrific. It's been a wonderful journey, and it continues. And OK Cool comes in and says, to be fair, no one had ever heard of him. Only those from the other side of the world had heard of him, and then Andrew said, and then we won the league. Yes, indeed. And Brown Warrior says, my only concern at the time was some people know the glaring factors that were mostly responsible for that difficult start. A full squad rebuild off the back of a horrendous season. Yep, totally take that on board as well. And COVID, yep. Michael Ross says, I'm very sceptical of Ange, but the moment he was appointed was 100% behind him. I think every Celtic supporter was 100% behind him from the moment he was appointed because he was the Celtic manager. But as one of the commenters said there, it doesn't absolve you of the right to ask questions about processes and how he was brought to the club. But I think we're all 100% behind him now, Aidan.
Yeah, absolutely, Tony. I think everybody is. And it was just to touch on as well, Tony, slight detour, but I know you'd mentioned Frank McGarvey. You just wanted to say a wee bit about that.
I did indeed. For those of you who are old enough to remember Frank McGarvey playing, he's a wonderful servant to Celtic, and he came on and he gave an emotional address to the Celtic supporters pitch side, and then he spoke to Celtic TV as well after it. And if you watch them, it's pretty heartbreaking to watch because he's very emotional. He's getting upset, and he has been diagnosed with cancer. The family have let everybody know that. But what a wonderful goal scorer for Celtic. He'll tell you all the times that it was him that made Charlie Nicholas the player he was. I don't doubt that for a second. Frank McGarvey and Charlie Nicholas were two brilliant strikers in the 80s. And Charlie got all the limelight and the headlines, but Frank was a prolific goal scorer and one of the 30 who scored more than 100 goals for the club. And for those that are old enough and privileged enough to witness Frank McGarvey, he was a top striker for Celtic. And a lovely man as well, was always available, king with his time. So, you just wish him all the best in his fight. Stay strong. He'll never walk alone. And for all those who remember Frank, keep him in your thoughts and your prayers. And for all the wonderful memories and goals that he provided as well, we just hat tip to Frank and say, keep fighting, Frank. Marquee Boys comes in. Frank McGarvey was exceptional, a hard grafter on the pitch. Yeah, I mean, if you're way too young to remember Frank McGarvey, but you'll have grown up watching all sorts of DVDs, videos, call it what you like, and images of Frank McGarvey scoring for Celtic, and he scored a lot of good goals,
Yeah, despite it being a bit before my time, I've seen plenty of videos of Frank McGarvey scoring up as well, where who he was. And yeah, he was obviously clearly some player, and the fact that you were kind of rhyming off that he's in that sort of prestigious club of people that have scored over 100 goals for Celtic, that just backs up data-wise, how good a player he obviously was. So yeah, no, it's a shame to see that he's also struggling a bit at the moment. So as you were saying, Tony, we obviously wish him and his family and that all the best.
God bless Frank, great striker, cracking person. Couldn't have put it any better myself. He is a cracking person, and I spoke to him recently on the 40th anniversary of the Ajax game, which was on the website. If you didn't get to read it, I'll try and find a link to that and post it up. And he couldn't have been any nicer. Marky Boy says, very emotional Saturday. God bless. And Mo says, like, comes in, says, Frank's a legend. Yes, he always will be, and we wish him well in his fight. And keep strong, Frank. And tomorrow we move to Fir Park for the quarter-final of the League Cup. Are you on tomorrow, Aidan?
I believe. I think I'm not on tomorrow, Tony.
I think in fact, it might well be Graham McGarvey that's on with me tomorrow. Lump in the throat on Saturday. God bless Frank. Yep, there you go. So I think lots of affection pouring in for Frank McGarvey. But yeah, we'll preview the Motherwell game tomorrow. Predicted lineups. We'll try and second guess the man again, Aidan. See if we can.
I need to start getting some better on my predicted lineups. Tony, I had a few stalkers recently.
It's a thankless task, but it doesn't stop us from doing it. But there you go. But yeah, we'll be on same time, same channel tomorrow to preview the quarter-final League Cup against Motherwell. Celtic still defending their trophy. Hopefully they'll be in the draw for that semi-final come early evening tomorrow, because it's an early kick-off, isn't it, tomorrow night?
6:15, I believe, Tony.
Yeah, in the early kick-off, at Fir Park. I'll be there, hopefully, from Fir Park, doing my duty as always. Dan O'Neill comes in with this one. Frank was amazing. Watched him as a boy and always stood out. Had the pleasure of sharing a table with him at a dinner dance and spoke to him all night and swapped numbers, kept in touch. He's an absolute gentleman. Well, there you go. What can you say to that? I found him the same, an absolute gentleman on and off the park. Really kind, generous with his time. Top man. God bless you, Frank. And we'll be back tomorrow. Thanks, everybody, for your contribution about Nakamura and various other things, and Frank McGarvey as well. Aidan, thank you for that. That's another episode that's gone in like that, as it always does. I'll draw your attention to the bottom of the screen. New subscriber offer. It's £6 for 6 months of full access. Just hit that subscribe button, guys. www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. Thanks a lot. We shall see you all tomorrow. Cheers, Aidan.
Cheers, Tony. Cheers, guys.